Bastard is known as the father-son trauma manhwa, where the father just wants to kill his son's crush. You know, just some normal family drama. The last video ended with Jin dedicating his entire life to basically protect Kyun from his father. So let's see how they continue this insane family drama with the second part to Bastard. Also, just want to say that I am very sick, so I apologize for my voice. But yeah, I didn't want to miss another upload. The story continues with Jin explaining the legend of Robert Johnson, a real-life blue guitarist who claimed to have sold his soul to the devil. Jin envisions his own father as the devil, and in that moment, he vows to kill him. We then cut to Kyun's first day working at the convenience store where she is being trained by a coworker. Later that night, Jin and Manny visit her. After her shift, they take her on a joyride in one of Manny's dad's cars. They drive outside the city when suddenly, Kyun gets an alert about another girl disappearing, the sixth in the neighborhood this year. The authorities now advise all female students to walk home in groups of 2 when it's super late. This, however, shocks Jin, since he already knows about 4 of the victims, but not the other 2. The group nearly get into a car accident and Manny's car ends up stuck. They wander around a pier where people are fishing. Jin asks Manny why people enjoy fishing so much, and Manny explains that it's either for the peace and quiet or for the brief rush of energy that they feel when they catch something. Jin then begins to question, why does his father like killing people? Kyun receives a fish from one of the fishermen and the group enjoys a nice dinner together. When Jin goes to the bathroom, Kyun asks Manny why he hangs out with him. She suspects that Manny is just using Jin as easy prey, but Manny actually tells her that he befriended Jin because his dad is a CEO. He thought it was better to be friends with a rival than to be enemies. But over time, Manny admits that Jin turned out to be a pretty fun kid to be around. His loser friend, as he says. Jin overhears this conversation. As Manny and Kyun raise their glasses to toast him, Jin breaks down in tears, realizing that he finally has friends. Meanwhile, Jin's father, Dong-sul, reflects on his last confrontation with Jin. A missing piece of that moment is now revealed. Jin continued on to try to convince his father to let him deal with Kyun on his own, which his father found very interesting. At school, Kyun joins the art club but realizes that her messages with the debt collectors are now gone. Outside, Jin is confronted by Park, who demands to know if he's been hanging out with Manny. Jin is now filled with confidence, so he admits that not only has he been hanging out with Manny, but that he's also friends with Manny, and then as one last final jab, he also admits that he was the one who stole his wallet. He walks away smugly, but then Pan warns Jin to keep his attitude in check or else he'll get himself hurt. Later, Jin finds Kyun in the art room, but before he can talk to her, a group of older kids confront him, demanding to know if he was the one who stole Park's wallet. At the same time, Manny is dealing with his own broken down car, which won't be fixed for at least a week. He receives a text about Jin being cornered. The older kid begins beating Jin and says that he already texted Manny. Now all they have to do is just wait and see if Manny would even show up for him. Jin insists that he actually won't. He continues to take a beating until suddenly, Manny does arrive. Manny tries to calm things down, saying that he never wanted to fight them, but then Park tells him that Jin called the 2 of them friends. This makes Manny stop and think, and he asks Jin directly if they really are friends. When one of the bullies tries to intimidate Manny, he punches him straight in the neck. Manny tells Jin to pay attention, and then he proceeds to beat up the others. Afterward, Manny mocks Jin with, "Friends, huh?" Very funny. Later that day, Jin chews gum and then spits it out before running into Kyun. She notices his bruises and then takes him to the nurse's office. While her back is turned, Jin smears gum into her hair, blaming it on somebody else. Kyun then panics, but Jin just tells her that she just needs to get a haircut. So, he takes her to a salon, hoping that she'll cut her hair short and then dye it so he wouldn't be his father's type. However, Kyun refuses to do it. Her grandfather has dementia and mistakes her for his mom. If she changed her hairstyle, then he wouldn't recognize her anymore. So she decides to only cut out the gum. Jin realizes that he made a crucial mistake, but then suddenly, a chilling voice interrupts. Well, isn't that sad? Jin spins around, horrified. His father is sitting right there. Dong-soo calls Kyun's hair perfect just the way it is. Kyun recognizes him from the hospital. Dong-soo asks Jin to speak with him privately, so they step into the bathroom, and then he locks the door. Jin demands to know how he knew he was there. We flash back to when Dong-soo began realizing that Jin had grown into a man. After learning from the landlord that there was no police incident outside their apartment, Dong-soo started following Jin everywhere. Jin then begins to panic, asking why he's so curious about him and why he hasn't even asked about the cut on his face. Finally, Jin explodes, asking what he even means to his father. Dong-soo just smirks and he asks if Jin likes Kyun. Jin denies it, but Dong-soo laughs in his face, mocking him, saying, "Since when did you get the nerve to talk back to me like that?" He calls Jin useless, and he moves closer, asking if Jin plans to report him now. He reminds Jin that the only reason he's alive is because he allows it. Jin snaps back, revealing that his father has already tried to kill him before, and it never worked. The nightmare that he kept on always having was when his father pushed him off a building. He screams that he's not his father's property, demanding to know if Dong-soo will kill him right there. His father smirks, saying that he won't since it would leave a trace. As Jin leaves, Dong-soo coldly warns him, saying, "First love never lasts long." He then remembers the time that he pushed Jin off the roof and how amusing it was. Jin drags Kyun out of the salon. She yells at him, saying that he should be grateful to have a father, but Jin lashes out, saying that she just doesn't understand. At least she has good memories of her dad. But Jin has nothing. He breaks down crying in front of her, and Kyun apologizes and hugs him. That night, Jin walks Kyun home for the first time. After leaving, he then goes to the police station to report his father. However, Dong-soo's warning just echoes in his head. He panics and leaves before telling them anything. However, two cops stop him and ask if he's in trouble, but Jin just ignores them and then runs away. Jin realizes that he can't go to the police. They would arrest him too, but he also just can't go home since his father would just kill him. He then cries out for help, but then he suddenly laughs. He realizes the only way forward is to just kill his father. He calls Dong-soo and he says that he's running away from home. He then asks why his father likes Kyun so much. Dong-soo flips the question back to him, and Jin replies, because she's pretty, kind, and she saved his life. He warns his father never to lay a hand on her or else he'll cut them off. Dong-soo just scoffs at him, saying that he's gone insane. Meanwhile, a woman is walking along the roadside, complaining about a terrible date, when suddenly, a mysterious man attacks and drags her into the woods. He ties her up, but he then hears footsteps. It turns out to be Jin, who just stops and says that he smells blood. Before continuing on, back at the convenience store, Kyun is bored when her boss walks in drenched from the rain. He says that he has to take care of some business, and then buys an umbrella and then leave. Moments later, Jin arrives and tells Kyun that he ran away from home, which she takes, obviously, very well. The mysterious man is then seen holding an umbrella, loading a moving body bag into his truck. Jin then asks Kyun if he can stay over at her place. She slaps him, saying that it's very inappropriate for a boy and a girl to sleep together. She suggests Manny's instead, but Jin, still hurt by Manny's words, just says nothing. Kyun then reluctantly lets Jin stay at her place for just one night. While waiting for her coworker to cover her shift, Jin then asks for an umbrella. Kyun says that there should be one in the storage room. Meanwhile, the kidnapped woman is brutally beaten to death with a hammer by the mysterious man, who just continues on smashing her skull over and over. Back at the store, Kyun discovers that her coworker had actually taken the umbrella. It's revealed that the coworker was the real kidnapper and murderer all along. At school, a group of delinquents is messing with Park, and Manny is just standing nearby, just watching the ocean. The group calls it his guardian angel mode. Annoyed, Manny lashes out, but one delinquent tries provoking further, suggesting a new idea. Meanwhile, Jin and Kyun head to her house, only to be stopped by two police officers who rush them inside. Jin feels relieved, since it was actually him who had called the police, pretending to be the kidnapper and then warning him of his next victim being near Kyun's house. Before entering, Jin sets up a security camera, explaining that the area is just too dangerous. Kyun then points out that they don't even have a computer, but Jin says that this type of camera doesn't need to be plugged into one. Inside, Jin awkwardly tries to settle in, even getting spooked by a cockroach. That night, Kyun is cold towards Jin. She's super embarrassed and angry and then frustrated because he won't be honest with her about his father. Outside, Dong-soo approaches the house. He notices the security camera and 2 officers spot him. When the cops get closer though, he vanishes. The next morning, Jin wakes up to see Kyun's grandfather just staring at him, believing Jin is his father. Jin plays along and Kyun just laughs at him. Later at school, Manny walks in and is confronted by Pan, who asks if he's actually been hanging out with Jin. Manny obviously denies it, and to prove it, he demands Pan to bring Jin over to him. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. So if you guys want to talk about your favorite series, get recommendations, and just connect with some like-minded fans of mine, then this is the server for you. We'll soon be hosting live community events like games, live reactions, and live readings only on the Discord server. So if you want to be involved in this, then why not scroll down and join our community. Also, we just opened up a Patreon, so if you guys want early access videos, uncensored videos, and just to support the channel in general, then why not go ahead and check out the Patreon. But back to the video. After school, Jin goes to ask Manny if he could stay over at his house, but instead he finds Pan, who tells him that Manny is looking for him. Jin then decides to follow him, which confuses Pan. Pan leads him under the bridge, where Manny and the rest of the delinquents are waiting. Jin tries to speak with Manny, but then suddenly, Pan kicks him forward into a circle, where Park stands with his fist up. Manny forces Jin to fight Park. Jin is obviously stunned, but Manny mocks him, belittling him in front of everybody. Pan then drags him closer to Park, and Manny says that if Jin can beat Park, then he'll forgive him for lying about their friendship. The group just continues to berate him, making him angrier and angrier. Jin then begins to grow a deep hatred towards Manny, thinking of him as a lion while he himself is just a lamb. But Jin gets up and declares that he is not a lamb. He suddenly jabs his fingers into Park's eyes and then hurls a rock at his head, shocking everybody. Park tackles Jin to the ground, but then Jin bites into Park's arm, ripping off a piece of flesh. He then smashes a rock into Park's temple and then pins him down. In a frenzy, Jin headbutts Park repeatedly while memories of his supposed friendship with Manny flashes through his mind. Finally, he stops, and he looks up at Manny with a death stare. When the others leave and it's just Jin and Manny, Jin tells him that he knows that this was just a test, his final training. But Manny dismisses this, mocking Jin and then calling him a one-eyed freak. He warned Jin not to act like they know each other at school because he doesn't want to be seen with a weirdo like him. Jin is confused, asking why Manny is acting this way. Manny coldly replies that they were never friends, he was just only having fun. Jin brings up the time at the restaurant, but Manny brushes it off, saying that he lied because he wanted to sleep with Kyun. This obviously infuriates Jin further. Manny ends it by saying that if it weren't for Jin's father, Jin would be already dead, something that's been echoing in Jin's head from his own father. As Manny walks away, Jin slowly stands back up. He thinks to himself, if I can't even beat Manny, how can I ever beat the devil? He squares up, and he demands Manny to fight him. Jin throws a punch, but they're too weak to make any impact. Manny easily punches him in the chin, sending him to the ground. Still, Jin forces himself up. Manny then begins to mock him again, crouching down to lure Jin into attacking. When Jin does, Manny flips him up, and he knocks him out with a punch, ending the brawl. He then tells Jin that this was the end of his lesson, and then he asks him why he even wanted to learn to fight. Jin, being battered and bruised, says that it wasn't to be a good fighter, he just wanted the confidence, because there is someone that he has to defeat. As Manny asks who, we see Dong-soo secretly watching them from the bridge. Meanwhile, at Kyun's workplace, her co-worker watches as Kyun gets hit on by some random middle schoolers. This sight makes the co-worker think negatively of her. Later, Kyun tries to share a gift with the coworker, but the coworker just grows cold and dismissive. Kyun apologizes if she did anything wrong, but the coworker backtracks, apologizing for being sensitive. But when Kyun leaves, the coworker glares at the gift, remembering her kill. We flash back to the coworker being stood up by her date, only to see the man go out with another girl. She followed them and she overhears the girl mocking the guy, which infuriated her and led to the girl's murder. Back in the present, the coworker rips up Kyun's gift, screaming that she hates her. And then suddenly, a customer arrives, and she quickly straightens up. The customer is revealed to be Tong-sul, who bluntly just tells her to not even think about it, and then calls her ugly. We cut back to when Jin was walking down the road. Tong-sul had actually been following him, hiding in the woods. Both of them stopped, and then they both smelled blood. That's when Tong-sul saw Kyun's coworker in the woods, all bloodied up and hiding. The coworker obviously grows upset, but Tong-sul pretended not to notice and then went to pay for his drink. He told her that people who know their own value are attractive, which only just made her even angrier. But then he called her attractive, while also warning her not to get jealous, unless she wants to die. After he leaves, the coworker furiously tweets out asking who Tong-sul is, claiming that he just left his briefcase at the convenience store. When Tong-sul gets home, he remembers torturing a woman in his chamber, but after leaving the room, he heard banging coming from the inside. Later, Jin visits Kyun's home with an expensive jacket as a gift for her and her grandfather. But Kyun checks the price tag and then scolds him for spending so much money. She still lets him stay one more night, tending to his wounds. She realizes that Manny must have been the one to attack him, but Jin insists that it's not what she thinks. Jin admits that he knows somebody who is weak and pathetic, but deep down, that person is a bad guy. He asks her, what if that person became strong? What would he do? Kyun reassures him that he isn't a bad guy, but if he ever were, she would stop him herself. The next day, Manny is in the car with his family, driving to a vacation spot. He recalls his childhood memories. His father's growing company forced massive layoffs, leading to employees' suicide, and Manny was the one who took the blame, getting beaten up by the other kids. He learned that he had to become stronger, shaping who he is now. He also remembers the bridge, where Jin admitted that the person that he wanted to fight was his father. So, Manny asked his father about Tong-sul, but his father reassures him that Tong-sul was a good man. Still, Manny confesses that he heard someone call him a demon. Suddenly, the family car lost control and tumbled down a hill. Manny wakes up to find his legs crushed under the car and his entire family dead. As he calls for help, a truck crashes down the hill and then lands nearby. He sees someone standing on the road and calls out, but the man just smiles. It turns out to be Tong-sul. Manny then collapses again. When paramedics arrive, Manny briefly wakes up only to see his family car explode, burning his parents' corpses. Later, he fully wakes up in a hospital bed, with both of his legs amputated. At school, Manny's group mocks him for the accident, even suggesting beating him up. But then Pan appears, and he simply just walks away. The group doesn't really care, because they know that Pan was never loyal anyways. Meanwhile, Manny meets up with his father's lawyers to discuss estates. Manny asks if there are any friends or family that have come to see him. The lawyer, however, just says no. Manny, in denial, tries to sleep it off, thinking that this is all just a dream. Suddenly, Park walks in, and then he laughs at him, saying that he screwed up. Then, the others enter the hospital room, all laughing and then stabbing him to death. However, it was just a nightmare. Manny panics. He breaks down, asking why no one has come to visit him. But then, Jin enters. He jokes around asking if Manny is cleaning the floor, but Manny just curses at him. Jin points out that they're not at school anymore, and this makes Manny cry in front of him. They go up to the roof where Manny explains how his accident happened, the loss of his parents, and now his sister's condition. Seeking comfort, he looks to Jin, but Jin just bluntly tells him that he's lucky his parents are dead, which obviously infuriates Manny. Still, Manny breaks down in front of him, and he just tells Jin to forget about what he saw. Then, Jin stands on the edge of the roof, telling Manny to keep a secret or else he'll be killed. He admits that his father is a murderer. At first, Manny just thinks Jin means like his own father, indirectly responsible for the deaths through business. But Jin clarifies, telling Manny everything: the murders, the hidden room, and Kyun's being in danger. Manny thinks that it's all a joke, but then he tries to call the police. Jin then warns him not to, but then Manny presses him, asking if he's hiding something from him, but Jin just stays quiet. Later, Jin takes Manny to his family's memorial. Manny vows to keep Jin's secret, but he tells him to watch over Kyun. As Jin leaves, he runs into his father. Jin asks why he's there, and Tongsul says that he came to pay respects. And then noting that Jin's list of people to protect just keeps on growing. Jin insists that Manny is his friend, but Tongsul just says that he has no friends. When he goes up to Manny, he speaks respectfully but then manipulates him, calling Jin mentally ill, a psychopath who became violent after his accident. He paints himself as the victim, saying that Jin has been calling him a killer or that he's pushed him off a building once. He even tells Manny that he cleared Kyun's debt and then offers to help any of Jin's friends. And then he gives Manny his card. When Tongsul leaves, Jin confronts him, asking what he told Manny. Tongsul ignores it, warning Jin that Kyun is in danger, not from him, but because pretty flowers always attract bees. He ends up saying if you love her, protect her. We flash back to Kyun's coworker confronting Tongsul at the apartment about him calling her ugly. Tongsul admits that he knows that she killed somebody and that she despises Kyun, but he warns her that Kyun has someone else protecting her, a knight in shining armor. We then cut to Jin running towards the convenience store. When he arrives, Kyun is safe. They begin to talk casually, unaware that outside, the coworker is watching through the window, glaring at Jin and wondering if he's really the knight in shining armor, as she figures out that Jin is Tongsul's son. And that's how we're going to end this part of the video. This entire part of the series is all about Jin and his growing relationship with Manny and Kyun. The last video was more about the relationship between Jin and his dad and Jin with Kyun, so I'm glad to see more of that friendship between Jin and Manny. The main thing I really don't like about this story is Manny's parents' death. I did not care for them dying, nor did I care about Manny's breakdown. I honestly didn't even like the second killer in the series. I feel like that she's not really that important in a story about a father and son. Not only that, but I honestly don't even think that this coworker is responsible for the other two kills in the beginning of the video, which kind of sucks because I really wanted this girl to be a good threat to both Jin and his father, which they kind of wanted to do that with Kyun being the next target, but I feel like it could have been a lot better. But honestly, those are just my only complaints because everything else is great, from Tongsul catching Jin, Jin becoming more like his father, and obviously the growing friendship between Jin and Manny. And honestly, at the end of the day, I still really like this series, and I am very excited to continue talking about it. But what do you guys think? Do you guys like it? Do you guys hate it? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to join the Discord server, the Patreon, and the YouTube membership. All of those links will be in the description below. And if you guys like horror videos like this one, then why not scroll down and hit that subscribe button. But I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.